As far as I can see it, from my standpoint as a man in the 21st century, and having watched the women's movement systematically stick their fingers in so many of men's pies, pockets, and now even apparently into their eyes, making them blind to what's happening, MGTOWs and the MRHA movement really is the only way to stop it. The MRAs keep it in the public eye, and the MGTOWs deal with it at a grassroots level. Women will never see the problem. They can't. They are simply hardwired to want more of everything. They are the ultimate consumers, after all, as many studies have shown. And anything that opposes them is therefore anti-woman or misogynistic or hating on women. So the only real way to stop them without any actual action against them is simply to walk away. Women have, throughout history, used sex to control men. This control has now moved too far and made the world actively toxic for men. So it's now driven them to a point that, once they see the truth, they no longer want to have any part in that world. The mainstream media and women are doing their best to paint this as just simply irrational, and they are telling men to man up or grow up. But if you take a good hard look at what's happening in society, men are acting grown up, and it's women who are regressing to childhood. Any parent will tell you that the ultimate sanction to deal with a naughty or uncooperative child is simply to say no. Trying to deal with them physically, or trying to use dialogue, or even attempting basic sanctions rarely works when the child isn't in the mood to change its habits. So the only solution is to withhold its treats, its favourite toy, etc. And this is what men are now doing. Make no mistake, this is not a decision or a route men take lightly, as they are basically programmed to want to help women, to love women, and to do all they can to make women happy. But the pendulum has now swung so far towards women's rights that it's just not sustainable, and the MGTOW movement is a reflection of this. Women have been bred to be like this. Their learned behaviour is that if they kick and scream enough, they will get their way. Men grow out of this. It's called being an adult. But women never do. Women are also taught that if you don't back down, you will win. Men are similarly taught to back down in adulthood too. These two facts are highly toxic to men. It's always been this way. I mean, when did any man ever win an argument with any woman? Women have always had the sanction of going off in a sulk and using their blunt lever method of withholding sex to get their way. And since men quite like sex, they usually let the woman have their way. But now, with things as they are, men are stepping up and using that same lever too. Time will tell how effective it is, but at least, as methods go, it's not actively toxic to men, and can only lead to happiness for men, as the loss of sex, although not wonderful, can be replaced in a man's life with things like hobbies, or even casual relationships, if that sort of thing is what's wanted. Women, like naughty children, will never learn. They will always push back, and they will always fight for their cookie, and yours too. The only solution, therefore, is not to buy any cookies. That way they lose out. And in this instance, the man will also save the cost of the cookies and then spend it on things that he wants. It's going to be a long road, because women need to forcibly be made to grow out of their current mood of entitlement, which basically translates as they want everything and the man gets nothing. But until that time comes, MGTOW and the men's human rights movement will only grow. The irony of all this is that if women had handled things better and worked inside society by nudging social norm behaviour rather than dashing for legislation, men would probably have actually welcomed a lot of things that women claim to be fighting for. Equal rights for all, for example, is a great idea and one that should genuinely be strived for. But equality, as the word suggests, means everyone is equal, and any law that puts one group over another are, by definition, not only working towards equality, but are actually working against it, and will themselves eventually, in their turn, have to be fought against and reversed. So, ironically, by fighting for their version of equality, women are only making things less equal. Whilst in the past this was maintained by social norms and expectations, the growing trend to put into law these requirements is what's doing the harm. Social trends can easily change. What's popular today will be forgotten tomorrow, but laws endure. Even if every woman on the planet walked away from third wave feminism tomorrow and agreed to treat all men 100% fairly, the laws would still be in place to screw men over and favour women, and therefore they would need to be repealed. And it is not until this has happened that men can return to the table and women can be allowed off the naughty step and permitted to sit at the big table as adults and have sensible discussions. Men are now, by law and by extension by default, now seen as the bad guys in any situation between a man and a woman. Men lose out at home, in the workplace, in the family, even in social situations. There literally isn't anywhere a man can turn to get relief from the constant barrage of attacks on his liberty, his rights, or even his time. Everything has to be geared to a woman's needs, so the man never catches a break. If this situation sounds familiar, it should. It's called being a parent. A parent never has any time to themselves, always has to put the child first, always has to watch to make sure the child is happy and has to deal with any drama or tailor their activities at the expense of their own lives to make sure their children are happy. It's time women stopped acting like children and stood on their own 2 feet. Or at the moment, all they're doing is regressing, and that is a bad thing for everyone.